Thanks very much, David. It's kind of a funny start. I feel a bit weird. I'm the third middle-aged white bald-headed male to talk to you in the last 20, 30 minutes. So I don't know whether we put us all together or whether that's the theme. I'd like to start by acknowledging that I'm standing on stolen Aboriginal land and pay respects to the elders past, present and emerging of the Ngunnawal people. It always was and always will be Aboriginal land. Today, I get to talk to you about a language services workforce code designed to lift standards, strengthen NAATI credential integrity, and push governments towards a procurement reform practitioners have been calling for, because this profession deserves more than patch-ups and lip service. It deserves a future. Today's agenda is simple: to urge us all to move beyond piecemeal fixes. LSP endorsement is a start, but it cannot solve the real problems of pay, retention and professionalism by itself. The solution on the table is a new independent workforce code to be co-designed and co-regulated by AUSIT, Professionals Australia as leader and NAATI, that would set enforceable standards of pay and conditions and professional development delivered by contract through procurement by government. This code gives us a one-step, sector-wide solution, a fair baseline for every provider and practitioner, an industry-wide uplift in quality, and crucially, the power to make real change now, not 5 years from now. Let's use today to form a united voice, break with the status quo, and push together for a future where interpreters, translators, and LSPs share both responsibility and reward, lifting our industry for everyone who relies on our work. Everyone here understands the long-standing problems in our sector: chronic underpayment, workforce shortages, and dwindling professional standards that are confirmed year after year by inquiry after inquiry. We know the root causes of service decline are beyond LSP control. We have a sector plagued by decades of cost-cutting and undercutting of labour price, which has accelerated since the pandemic, flawed fee structures producing hourly rates close to minimum wage, which don't retain professionals in the sector, no workforce compliance measures that address working conditions, including OH&S, consultation, grievances, or maintenance of minimum standards in relation to the workforce, and no funding mechanism for improved service provision. This graph shows the core issue. The sector faces a serious sustainability issue. Demand for interpreting is rising by 18%, but 33% of interpreters are expected to leave within 5 years, and we're watching unmet demand grow rapidly. This gap means more people miss out on vital language services, and the economic and social cost of poor interpreting, from medical errors to lost access in justice and community services, keeps climbing. The fatal flaw in the LSP endorsement model is that it does nothing to address the core problems of pay, workforce supply and retention. We know that the top stated reasons for leading the sector are: 1, lack of job security; 2, low pay and variation between LSP rates; 3, casualisation; and 4, a lack of career progression. LSP endorsement, exclusive of any compliance requirements related directly to workforce, we fear will fail to address the sustainability issues that the Department of Home Affairs has heavily invested in identifying. In a sector where uncertified practitioners readily operate, few incentives exist for individuals and organisations to invest in certification. The lack of respect for certification creates a perverse disincentive for real professional development. Stronger regulatory frameworks and enforcement mechanisms are needed to ensure certification is not merely aspirational, but an essential prerequisite for service provision. The question, as far as we see it, is: does the proposed LSP endorsement model fix all the problems? Our answer is, unfortunately, in isolation, no. We fear it is doomed to fail. The current policy path, despite good intentions, repeats the same piecemeal solutions that haven't resolved the underlying problems. It does not stop the race to the bottom on quality and pay. Service standards do not improve. Workforce issues, attraction and retention remain unaddressed. Certification lacks real economic incentives or proper oversight. Professionalism and ethical standards aren't truly elevated, and key sector sustainability concerns persist. That is not to say that we do not believe LSP endorsement may have a role to play, particularly in holding LSPs to account. But LSP endorsement is only one pillar of 3 pillars that are necessary. The second pillar is a comprehensive co-regulatory workforce code to directly address issues of quality and lift standards across the sector, including pay, working conditions and expectations, that would apply to providers who contract with government and their workforce, whether contractors or employees. The third pillar is for endorsement to also extend to not just LSPs as body corporates, but to individual translators and interpreters. We will address how our proposed model can directly address the root causes of suboptimal interpreting and services while lifting standards, professionalism, and trust in the sector. We've done this before, drawing upon decades of experience in statutory and industry co-regulation of national industries. We've proven expertise in professional assessment for statutory and industry accreditation and an established governance model that delivers results. We'll outline how Professionals Australia brings unparalleled capabilities to effectively implement and oversee a national workforce code and professional endorsement for translators and interpreters. The workforce code would be a contractual obligation when LSPs obtain work with government. Government can choose to set the standard it wishes to accept, as it is the ultimate consumer. It would be mandatory and have standards, compliance, and governance. Driving genuine change, especially lifting workplace standards and retention, is challenging. Traditional industrial and legal solutions are slow and complex, often requiring dozens of steps. A sector-wide code offers immediate broad reform all at once, not step by step. It can quickly address major concerns for all LSPs and government contractors, and most importantly, end the race to the bottom, creating a floor that rogue operators can't undercut. Improving working conditions and pay is essential to building the profession and a sustainable sector. It's not the whole solution, but we can't ignore it. Without it, lasting reform isn't possible. To secure a viable future, we must tackle these fundamentals. The improvements that the code delivers, however, are not just for individuals. The code also allows for a one-step process towards delivering higher standards of quality and professionalism. We can't expect that standards of quality and professionalism will just magically appear. We need to provide the framework. We need to provide the incentive. We need to remove the disincentive. The code does this. The third pillar of our approach is to implement a mandatory model of industry endorsement for TIs. We recognise this is a new concept, although we know talk of registration has happened before, but this is different. Our experience is that the first step to marking out a profession is at an industry level. So what is it? Professionally endorsed TI status is a professional industry endorsement, demonstrating advanced standing in the TI profession, which must be held by TIs performing work in accordance with the national code. And what are the benefits? It elevates professionalism throughout the industry. It addresses concerns about quality by mandating additional CPD requirements, including ethical practice. It ensures clients have greater confidence in the standing and practice of endorsed TIs, knowing that they are meeting advanced professional requirements. It mirrors other industry models of professional endorsement. It manages risk by extending insurance cover throughout the industry, which protects the individual, the LSP, government, and the consumer. It engages the professional associations, including PA and NAATI and AUSIT and as leader, in a co-regulatory process where each body lends its expertise and resources to a common objective. Making certification mandatory, coupled with the introduction of a professionally endorsed translator post-nominal, would create a clear pathway for recognition and respect while eliminating the current disincentives for professional development and quality standards. By requiring a high-quality industry-approved CPD in addition to minimum requirements, we can address a key driver of quality and boost professionalism within the sector. And it would be fully reimbursed under the Workforce Code. Professionally endorsed translators and interpreters would have all of the expenses associated with obtaining and maintaining their endorsement reimbursed by LSPs under the code, including the time necessary to complete the CPD. Translators and interpreters should not have to pay for CPD or endorsement out of their own pocket or in their own time. They should be fully reimbursed for this. This framework offers an industry-wide approach that brings professional associations and key stakeholders together for genuine co-regulation of the Language Services Code. Through established standards, fair dispute resolution, compliance panels, and the maintenance of professional endorsement, the sector can work collectively to lift quality and integrity. Drawing on decades of experience in co-regulatory governance across multiple national industries, this model is tried and tested and can be readily adapted for interpreters and translators. It relies on robust assessment, oversight, and continuous improvement, mirroring systems that have successfully supported engineers and other professionals. The framework, supported by a multi-layered governance structure, provides strong checks and balances, audit-ready processes, and ongoing feedback loops. Integrity is maintained by practitioner-led competency assessment, while the structure ensures regulatory confidence and practical accountability. By coming together to co-design the details, the entire industry can create a governance model that is practical, scalable, and consistently high quality, one everyone can have confidence in, and that delivers lasting improvements for practitioners and the communities they serve. What I am outlining here are the principles we're asking you to support. If you do support it, we will need you to help us co-design it and campaign to get the government to enact it. This proposal succeeds because it addresses the economics. The government, as the largest consumer, can set labour prices and intervene in the market to end the race to the bottom. Without this, labour undercutting will persist through procurement, which ultimately disadvantages everyone. Government intervention creates enforceable obligations and standards through the code. Aspirational policies and non-binding guidelines have not delivered results. Real change needs mechanisms with incentives and consequences. While previous procurement standards helped, they lacked effective compliance. The code will incentivise compliance with consequences for non-compliance, such as disendorsement of LSPs. This co-regulation proposal is highly cost-effective because it leverages the expertise of existing professionals rather than creating expensive new enforcement agencies or direct regulatory bodies. It uses proven, easily implemented governance models, adapted from other safety-first regulated environments, and offers an immediate solution to soaring costs from suboptimal interpreting, which are projected to reach $1.1 billion for government and community by 2030. This is our opportunity to unite behind a practical solution for real reform in language services. By supporting the code approach, we can help deliver immediate benefits for the profession, improve outcomes for communities, and ensure sustainable quality for the future. I urge you to add your voice by signing the open letter to Minister Ali. Together, the sector can make change happen. This is our opportunity to unite behind a practical solution for real reform in language services. By supporting the code approach, we can help deliver immediate benefits for the profession, improve outcomes for communities, and ensure sustainable quality for the future. Please add your voice by signing the open letter to Minister Ali. Together, the sector can make change happen. Thank you.
Okay, we do have enough time for, in fact, we've got a reasonable amount of time for questions. So, yes, it's a real struggle here because you can't see what's happening up there. We might a question from someone who hasn't asked one before. There's one up there, so yes, let's service that part of the auditorium first, and then.
Hello. No, that's too loud. Sorry. Hi, I'm Jennifer. I am an interpreter, a Filipino interpreter, but I also work for an LSP. I really applaud all those things that you mentioned as an interpreter, but as someone that works for an LSP, my question is, will there be an opportunity for engagement with LSPs in relation to these points that you have just mentioned?
Yes, we need to engage with everyone, including LSPs.
Perfect, thank you.
Aldous Oslands. Yeah, I welcome particularly every incentive which reduces that race to the bottom. I think that's really essential. I was rather puzzled by your view that interpreters, translators should never pay for their own professional development. That is not really an industry standard. It's just a small point, but I think, look, because of a low remuneration, I know a lot of interpreters and translators will not do those things unless it's free, but it can't be the industry standard in the medium or long term. Thank you.
Professionals Australia represents a lot of professionals in a lot of different sectors. So we're talking architects, scientists, engineers, the list goes on and on and on. And if workers, regardless of what industry they are in, are required to go do professional development, in our strong view, it should be paid for by the employer or by the government in order for them to not be out of pocket to do that and to not be out of time to do that and to encourage making it universal. That doesn't stop people from going and doing things that are outside the requirements and paying for that themselves. But in our view, that should be supported by being funded, and it shouldn't be on the person themselves.
I think there was another one down here. Yeah, okay. Back to you, Chris.
Gosh, so many questions trapped in the exit. Just to clarify, disendorsement of an LSP would be designed to damage their business. Is that correct?
So the current model before you is that in order for an LSP to get work from the government, they would be endorsed. We're saying that's good. If you're not endorsed, you can't get the work. That's the model. So you get endorsed to get the work. If you do the wrong thing, you get disendorsed and you can't do the work. What we're saying is, if we establish a code that says these are the minimum rates of pay for people, here are the minimum conditions, here are the minimum everything else, and an LSP, that's part of the code and that's part of the endorsement model, and then the LSP goes about breaching that, then there should be a remediation mechanism to get it fixed. But if that continues to happen, they should be disendorsed and not get the work in order to make sure that the standards are kept high and we don't have a race to the bottom. So there has to be a consequence for breaching minimum pay, terms and conditions, etc.
And that would be co-regulated by AUSIT, NAATI and PA.
And as leader.
And as, I'm so sorry to admit, as leader. And they would set up themselves as the final arbiters of what is fair and correct. So an LSP that might have been around for years hasn't been involved in this development of this model, just continuing business, and then finds one day that they're in breach of a set of standards that were established without their input and are now being financially penalised by parties with whom they have no commercial relationship or interaction. That's the outcome you're intending?
No, what I'm intending is what we do is we have, let's use Northern Health, because we heard about them before. So Northern Health goes out and says, we would like LSPs to tender to do our work. Here are the minimum sets of wages and conditions you must provide to the translators and interpreters in order to get this contract. So that is the floor that gets set. That's the contract that the LSP enters into. So it's not...
buyers and sellers can opt out of this?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, another question somewhere? I think Amy can see the hand more easily than we can. She's getting her exercise today up and down the stairs.
Finally, it's trouble here. Hi, interpreter fellows, translator fellows. Very happy to see all of you here. And thank you for this initial. I totally agree with you. This is the challenge we faced by everyone. But recently, we noticed a trend that governments start to employ interpreter as full-time, part-time, or casual staff. So I'm wondering, do you have any discussion about how to make government to employ interpreter as professional instead of administrative officer? Because as administrative officer, we cannot enjoy the professional development allowance, or even like traveling to the conference here. We need to use our own cost, and we cannot use the work hours. So if this is the future, more and more interpreters are recruited by the government themselves. How do we ask the government to treat interpreters as professionals, such as the action we want the LSP to do, but how do we ask the government to do that themselves as well?
Thank you. What we need to do is figure out some of the details like you've just asked. There's going to be a lot of other further details that we need to figure out. That's why we need people to get involved and help us figure it out. What we need to do now, in our view, is we need to endorse the principles of this, and then we need to form a national campaign committee in order to get moving on it, and we also need to ask people to become involved and talk about the issues that you're addressing and a whole bunch of other issues about how we could address that within the code itself.
And just do you realize the staff interpreter employed by the government are paid as like a $36 to $38 per hour as admin staff?
The rates of pay that we need to set under the workforce code, we still need to set. So we actually need to go through and figure out what is the right level of pay in order to not only retain all of the professionals in the industry, but also attract new.
Thank you for the answer. I think it's very important to do both at the same time. Otherwise, we will just push interpreter into the government employment condition, which is actually paid even poorly than the LSP.
Okay, do we have further questions? It's a bit hard for us to say. Okay, yes, in the middle, sorry, there's, yes, it's coming down. Yes, I can see Heather, but Amy, yes, in the centre there.
Thanks very much. Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Nikki. Really proud to be hearing you standing up there and telling this to everyone today. Just to pick up on that theme, one of the ways of demonstrating that someone is a professional and not an admin officer is that they're actually formally trained and qualified in their occupation. I said this the other day, Scott. I want to say it in this venue now so everybody hears it. As we go forward, there's a lot of detail that has to be discussed that, you know, we need to look at incorporating. And in the endorsed translator-interpreter criteria, the glaring, what is it, thing that's not there, can't speak English, thank you, is qualification. And that's not NAATI credential. And there are so many languages in which it's not going to be possible to get a credential by test, ever. We really need to be recognising that if we want to be recognised as professionals, we actually have to have the body of skills and knowledge gained through formal training, education and qualification. So can I just put in that bid publicly that we, when we're looking at those criteria, that we make sure that we've got the actual qualifications of a professional in there, please.
Okay, I think we're just about reached the end of the time. I'd like to just conclude by thanking Sam for this presentation. This is one element in the mix. This is one possible way of approaching this, and I think PA recognised that there's various ways of approaching this, but National Council felt that it was very useful that this conference and individual members at this conference got to hear of this particular approach so that you have a better idea of what is being proposed. So as Sam was indicating, there's probably a lot of water to flow under the bridge yet, but it's important that you hear the various views, this being an important one of them. So I'd like to thank Sam for his presentation, and when you, as you leave here and go back down the stairs, you should find afternoon tea waiting for you. So thank you very much. Thanks, Sam.